Welcome back to RK9 Rides. This week we've been looking at all of Segway's new third generation of electric scooters. Yesterday we did the Max G3 and today we're looking at the GT3 models. Now I've seen some of the specs and features for this scooter and it looks really promising. So let's see what changes have been made from the original GT1 and GT2 models and if they corrected some of the things that I didn't like as much about those original models. Obviously once I'm able to get my hands on the scooter I'll be posting a full review, so get subscribed to see that when it comes out. Okay, let's start with an overview here. 50 miles an hour, which is awesome. That's a huge upgrade over the GT2, close to 10 mile an hour upgrade. Obviously dual motor. You get a TFT display, which is always going to be super crisp and super bright and really easy to read in all different lighting conditions. A 3.9 second 0 to 30 is incredible. Anything under about 6 seconds is going to snap your head back. Anything under 5 seconds will literally take take your breath away. It's so quick. Anything under 4 seconds is jumping into hyper scooter territory. So if they really can give us a 4-second 0 to 30, that is going to be an insanely fun scooter to ride. 7,000 watts of power is a full 1,000 watts more than the GT2. And that kind of power actually does line up really well with this 0 to 30 time that they're claiming. In other scooters with similar power, I've found that you get about this acceleration time. Max range of 86 miles, which is absurd, but also depending on how much this ends up costing, probably will fall in line with the other scooters at the price. Now, without having seen all the features and stuff, my guess would be that they're targeting that maybe $2,000 to $3,000 price point. If they can keep it around $2,500 just based on this top speed and the acceleration and the motor power, then that would be right in line with the competitors. Dual hydraulic suspension. This looks great. I assume we'll be able to take a closer look at it once we scroll down. I think the suspension of the GT2 and GT1 was a weak point for those scooters. I didn't think that the springs were stiff enough, so I felt like they were constantly bottoming out. And even though you had the rebound adjustment, I felt like it didn't do much because the springs weren't stiff enough. And obviously I'm not going to be able to know how good the suspension actually is until I get on the scooter. But from what I can see so far and the other images I've seen, it seems like they've really improved the suspension systems in this scooter. So once again, like with their other scooters, it looks like they're hiding the max power behind some sort of boost mode. I'm hoping it's something that you can just toggle on and off easily. In the commercial they showed, there looked like there was a little bar on the display that showed you how much longer you could use the boost mode for. And hopefully that's something that you can activate while the scooter is actually moving and you don't have to come to a stop to toggle it or anything like that. Here we get some range information and immediately I'm seeing something I love to see, 72 volt scooter. So in previous generations, Segway has really leaned towards lower voltages and that's something that you could really feel as the battery drained, where you wouldn't get as much speed, you wouldn't get as much acceleration as the voltage sagged. And so having 72 volts should mean a faster, more efficient scooter overall. They're claiming 86 miles of range at 15.5 miles an hour, which is going to be awesome if you're the type of person that wants to commute with this and you don't necessarily want to ride it in the top mode all the time. This is something that you could easily leave without having to charge it for multiple days and still have plenty of battery. The number that's most important to me is this race mode mileage. Now, if it does end up being around that $2,500 price point, that'll be right about in line with other scooters that I've tested at that price point. Typically in the highest riding mode, you can expect between 30 to 40 miles of range on the $2,000 to $3,000 scooters. Now it looks like here we've got some vague mumbo jumbo about a stability enhancement system. I've harped on this Segway the whole time, this trademarked vague stability nonsense that they talk about. Disturbance resistance, don't know what that means. Handling, right? That's very vague. And skid resistance. The big thing I'm hoping for that Segway delivers on is some level of traction control so that it'll put power to the motors that have traction. So I can assume that that's something that they're referring to here. Okay, so we do get an overview of what all these terms mean. Okay, so the disturbance resistance is just referring to the geometry, 80 millimeter trailing distance, so you get a nice slack angle, and that's obviously going to help with stability. We already talked about this in the last video with the Max G3, but having this slack steering tube angle and having the axis of this be ahead of the wheel is something that helps a ton with stability. And that was one really strong point of the GT2, was even at the highest speeds, it was almost so stable that I could take a hand off of it. There's actually a few times when I'm riding the GT2 in previous videos where I'm able to take my hand off for a second, even at high speeds, while I'm like talking or explaining something, and it didn't wobble or have any sort of issues staying stable. Okay, so the skid resistance is referring to traction control. They say here that it's turned off by default and you have to activate it through the app. I'm totally fine with that. I think that's something that is worth turning on. Again, like I said, unless you're looking for the maximum acceleration, because I do think you get a little bit quicker acceleration if you take that traction control off. Here we get a closer look at the suspension. It's hydraulic like we mentioned, and it says it has 15 different levels of stiffness. I'm really hoping that this adjustability is actually going to have some tangible effect on the scooter, unlike the GT2, which felt like no matter how you dialed in the suspension, it had the exact same rebound, the exact same feel. I would assume that this is something that they've had time to work on and some time to dial in. But again, it's just going to be one of those things that not until I can stand on the scooter and see how it feels for myself am I going to actually know if they've done a good job with it. We get 11-inch self-sealing tubeless tires. 11-inch is actually a surprise because the Max G3 is also 11-inch. So I'm curious if the exact same tires can be used on both. I'm not sure if the F3 and the E3 have 10 or 11-inch tires. I haven't taken a closer look at those. I will be jumping into the F3 and the E3 in the next video, so get subscribed to see that. I'm glad to see once again, like with the Max G3, that they have this jelly layer that will seal up any punctures. Anything they can do to add peace of mind to your riding experience, because getting a flat while you're riding is miserable. Having to change that flat is miserable. So anything you can do to prevent that, I think is a win for your electric scooter. Hydraulic brakes as expected, front and rear, dual piston, 140 millimeter discs, 2.3 millimeters thick. Hydraulic brakes are obviously the best for high-end electric scooters, and this is again one of those things that even with the numbers, it's hard to tell exactly how these are going to perform. So once I get my hands on the scooter, I'll be able to better get a feel for how the brakes are. Here's a closer look at the display. Call notifications is a little funky, that you can have it pop up that someone's calling you while you're riding. I don't think that that's very useful unless you're like really looking for someone's call and you're able to just like stop in the middle of the street or stop wherever you're riding and take the call. It just feels like kind of a weird feature to tout. So it looks like you're getting all your normal information here. I'm not seeing anything that looks crazy different. It is nice to have the little icons down here that'll show you like if you're in dual motor mode, if you've got traction control on, if you've got any of the other settings set up, they should show up down here, which is awesome. You can also get estimated range left, which is super nice, assuming it is accurate. And then like the other models, you get navigation, which hopefully will be able to pair with things like Google Maps and Apple Maps. So you don't have to be using some sort of integrated maps that Segway has created. Like with all the scooters, you're getting their airlock technology where it'll unlock as you approach it. This is maybe a little bit more relevant for this scooter because you're less likely to be able to take it into a store or something, but you're always going to want to lock up your scooter no matter how long you're leaving it for. So using this as your primary way of securing your scooter is not something that you should be doing. And generally, I don't think this is super useful. We get a generic look at their BMS, the battery management system. This is just all normal stuff that a BMS is supposed to do. You can track it with Apple Find My, which is nice, but I think you're also supposed to be able to track it with the app. So I don't know if you necessarily need to use Apple Find My to track it. At least in their presentation, they showed that you would be able to track your scooter from the app, but I'm not seeing that here. Now, I'm curious here, they're not showing a brick. I'm curious if it's like the Max G3 where they have the adapter built into the scooter. This is saying an 8-hour charge time, so we can see how fast that charger is once we see what the battery capacity is. Get some new headlights. I like that it's mounted high and not low on the scooter because this helps you be seen at night and also will cast the beam further in front of you. You get front and rear turn indicators. I like that they haven't put them on the bar ends like with the other scooters, so that if you don't like these grips, you can change them out really easily and you don't have to just be stuck with the grips that they put on the scooter. IPX6 water resistance means that it's going to be totally fine in the rain, like they say. That was something that the previous model didn't have. So if you're someone that absolutely needs to keep your scooter outside, then this will be totally fine in basically any conditions you might run into. Oh, awesome. They have ABS. Okay, this is significant as well. So as far as I know, of all the scooters I've tried, I think Dualtron is the only one that had ABS. I have it on my Dualtron Victor, and I actually really liked it. I especially liked it during the winter months when the road was slick. Even if there wasn't ice on it, it was just wet. And that was something that allowed me to feel really comfortable coming to a stop quickly. It'll help you not lock up your brakes, similar to how it works in a car, where it will pulse the brakes instead of just locking them up so that the scooter won't slide out from under you. It has a max rider weight of 330 pounds. I really wouldn't have expected anything less than this, but it is nice to see. Just about every single rider should be able to use this scooter. And then we have the specs. So let me do a quick dive here and see if there's anything else relevant that I want to talk about. So doing the math on the battery capacity and voltage, it looks like it is a 30 amp hour battery, which means that the fast charger is a 3.75 amp charger. So let's quickly look at the regular GT3 as well. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I imagine it's probably really similar to the GT3 Pro, but just with some scaled down specs. This is also one that is already on pre-order. So it's currently on pre-order for $1,500. So that'll give us an idea of how this compares to other scooters at the price. And that also should give us a little bit better idea of their pricing strategy, and maybe we can kind of predict where the GT3 Pro is going to end up based on that. Now, the reason I think it is the only one available is because at CES 2024, they had a model that was branded ST. I don't know if it was the ST3 or just the ST, and it looks like they've pivoted from calling it the ST to the regular GT3. This does make sense from a marketing standpoint to me. Okay, so we have a lot of the same features, 45 miles of max range, 31 mile per hour max speed. So it's a $1,500 scooter. So typically around $1,500, you're looking around that 35 mile per hour range. So I think this is totally fine. I think sacrificing a few miles per hour over the absolute fastest scooters at the price is not a big deal if you feel like the other features that they offer are worth it. They're saying 25 miles of range in the sport mode, 0 to 30 mile an hour time of 9.5 seconds. So that's actually pretty much on par with other scooters I've tested at the price. There are some that are a little bit faster for the money. And if you jump up about $300 to $500 over that $1,500 price point, then this 0 to 30 mile an hour time comes down very quickly. So this is kind of becoming an awkward price point to buy at. But if this is the absolute top of your budget, this is more or less what you're going to see at this price. 2,400 watts of max power, so a little over a third of what you're getting with the GT3 Pro. Once again, they did say it's hydraulic suspension, but it looks like they've gone for a fork here rather than that linkage style suspension. You do still get hydraulic disc brakes, which I would expect to see at this price point, but it's nice to see that they did do that. It's not the same brakes. It's not the dual piston ones that they were bragging about. They put less information here, so we can assume it's a cheaper set of brakes. So this has a 1.3 amp turbo high speed charger. 1.3 amps is not turbo or high speed, I can promise you that. Looks like the same lights, looks like the same turn indicators, IP6 water resistance. Once again, 330 pound capacity, so it's probably the same frame. Okay, interesting. It'll be interesting to see what the price gap between the regular GT3 and the Max G3 is, because the Max G3 has a 28 mile per hour top speed. You're looking at similar battery size, you're looking at similar suspension, and then it's more portable. So if this is $1,500 and if the Max G2 comes in around that like $1,100 to $1,200 price point, or if it comes in below that, like if they have it on sale for like $1,000, I think that probably the Max G2 is going to be the best purchase until you jump over to the GT3 Pro. But once we get official prices and once I get my hands on these scooters, I'll be able to kind of give you better recommendations on which one to go for based on your budget. So thanks for watching. In the next one, we're going to jump into the F3 and the E3. Subscribe if you want to see that. Leave me a like if you enjoyed this video and you like this style of content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.